Well, hello to another Dragon Age update in Vidcast form. And, again, no intros and things like that because the technology situation that was reported on before is still the same case. That being that it's screwed up. So I'm using this form now to just very simply record as best as I can as a one-take thing and just try and upload that. So, hey, I'm pretty busy now as well. So trying to, even find the time, let alone the monetary resources to sort out the Max problems as well, is quite a pain. Right, anyway, what we're here for is to talk about the last Dragon Age session. So we left off with the party. It was a bit of a while ago, so you might not remember, but they had bought a map for a fort called Basilisk Fort for 1 gold, and they were heading straight for it to check it out. Well, this session brings them to the end of their journey. They can see it way off in the distance. They followed the map, and it has indeed brought them here. They can decide whether they want to pay the extra 9 gold, very, very suspiciously cheap, to purchase said fort. But of course, Karak is a Grey Warden, and he starts getting his Darkspawn sense a-tingling. But remember, these things work both ways. They thought they saw someone at a gatehouse there that leads the way in, and then the movement disappeared. There was obviously Darkspawn inside, so the group make their way forward, stealth up to the ruins outside, and keep themselves low and hug the brickwork, and sort of like peep round and try and see what they can see. Eventually, some Darkspawn show themselves at the bottom, some Genlocks, and some others pop up at the top with their short bows. Now, the party are keeping just out of range of that, and it's at this point that Karak decides to step out, tries to bait them out, draws the ones off the gate a little bit more forward. He's trying to sort of like encourage them in saying, hey, look, it's just me, or you lot in there, you think you can take me, that kind of attitude. But they weren't buying it. It took a very long time for them even to come forward hardly at all. All the correct rolls were being made for their psychological state and his attempts at trying to, coerce them, to lie to them, and to play the role, to perform. And he eventually led one enough forward to get pissed off. After phone's ringing behind me, always nice. After anyway, so that was all nice, and they jumped out, and Costello jumped out, and they started getting into range to Arcane Lance and pulling away from the bows again, and this sort of fun behaviour like this. And the bowmen didn't know what to do. I mean, they've got their arrows knocked now, and their fortifications have been damaged, and he's just pissing them off with a mind blast, Karak. And of course Costello can not Costello, no, as we'll see, we're going to be meeting Pete's new character as well, but more on that in a sec. Costello's got like improved Arcane Lance abilities and things like that. He's very neat. Finally managed to get one dragged out and come round the corner trying to take someone down. But of course, Tanador was waiting right there and jumped out on him and did him in, and they all gave him a good kicking. And the group eventually ended up coming in, drawing these guys out away from the gate, just outside of Harrowfire, eventually, and killing the melee guys, and then running forward with arrows whizzing past their ear lugs, under the gate, up into the tower, and engaging the bowmen, chucking their bows off them and throwing them over the top. That was Karak and Costello and that lot up there. Meanwhile, Tanador and Harold, his kitty cat, and co, run straight through the gate. The door can't shut properly. It's kind of like broken, wooden. There's walls that go all the way around the external fortification, and then inside is like some sort of big built-up building just to the left of the doorway as you come in, and that's like a big inn that's dilapidated. And then as it presses further on forwards, there is a really prominent motte, which is a very high, unclimbable hill that leads up to a single rounded tower all the way. And there is a bridge thing, that a wooden one, that bridges the gap from the door of that tower all the way down to the ground, the courtyard section. And there was more Darkspawn there. There was Darkspawn, there was Hurlocks on there with their Blight wolves behind them. And there was Genlock archers patrolling the walls, and they start running forward and start trying to fire. At this point, Blacktail, disappears off, does his thing, Oh, that Mabari. And then he suddenly reappears on the wall eventually. No one knows how he got there, he's doing his mysterious thing that he does, and he's silently pulling guys away, the ones at the back, and dealing with them and throwing them over the edge, and then he disappears. He suddenly reappears over on the other side of the wall again, and everyone's like, whoa, okay, what a mysterious creature he continues to be, so elusive. And Tanador decides, right, I'm going into the inn. I can hear voices, lots of voices. Sounds good for me. He doesn't want to check to see if it's open. He kicks the door in. It was open, by the way, but he breaks the lock anyway. And the door goes flying open, and he knocks one guy flying that was on the other side of it. And then there are 17 ghouls inside. And they all turn and look at Tanador simultaneously. Tanador turns and looks at them simultaneously. And he realizes, oh shit. And they start pouring out towards him. But before they can get out, Karak, very quick thinking, gets off his Mind Blast at the doorway, knocks a load down in the doorway, and then they get in the other guy's way. And so they're all starting to pile up, and Karak's keeping them mind blasted. Meanwhile, Tanador's stepping back and waiting for his moment. And then after they start trying to drag the guys away that were blocking the doorway, Tanador goes in and engages the ones that try pouring forward. So he's blocking 2 in the doorway. And eventually, as the fight goes on, he's holding them all at the door. He's 17 ghouls who are humans that have become tainted, essentially warped by coming into contact with the blight, and have changed into creatures of servitude. They haven't become Darkspawn. You have to be born Darkspawn, essentially, but they are of the Darkspawn side now. And the likely idea is that these are other people that have bought the dwarf's map for a gold and have come to check the suspiciously cheap fort out, and of course have succumbed to the Darkspawn that are waiting here. So all these people were other hopeful landowners, would-be landowners, and they got a little bit more than they bargained for, because they're now working for the Archdemon. Well, in fact, working for Kurjan, but he's the Alpha Hurlock that's leading this little rabble somewhere up in the tower. Well, anyway, as all of that goes on, they notice also that there is a Dalish elf tied to the table. Oh yes, he's all restricted and bound. So what do? Well, they were joking about, why don't we set fire to the place? Of course it's Pete. It's Pete's new character. Basically, that would have been a new record. They would have managed to kill Pete before he's even managed to play. That would be a whole new one. So yeah, technically Pete is back, we think, and playing this Dalish elf who was training to be a keeper and is very much an intellectual and a mage, but for some reason he stopped training to become a keeper, and no one really knows the history behind that and what was going on. There is a story to be told. Anyway, he looks like he's struggling, trying to free himself. He can't free himself. And he's been there a little while. Didn't get the taint either. Anyway, the Thanador starts fighting all the ghouls, and the group starts engaging them just out of arrow range. Meanwhile, Karak pulls off a really nice mind blast and procs like giggity giggity. Does massive damage to the wooden bridge section itself, which was very rickety and dilapidated too, and sent the two Hurlocks flying off the sides. Because very often what will happen is, very often with a Mind Blast, allow the mage to access just the physical damage skirmish stunt, just because it can prove to be quite funny, and essentially it's just like granting it to a bowman, because it's a ranged attack spell kind of. So something like a Mind Blast, so boom, knocks you flying up in the air. Anyway, this edged them off the edge of the walkway, these two Hurlocks, and they fell all the way down the moat, smacking their heads and extremities on things, and then landed at the bottom, barely moving. And then the Blight Wolves, without their masters to keep them in check, decide, we're going to get them, so they start charging across the walkway. I don't know what it is with the team. They just seem to solve these things somehow. They've just got a real winning combination, because the bridge did indeed have a fragmentation trap put on it that was intended for the players, of course. But with the Blight Wolves now free, I see that their handlers are gone. So they run across and they set the trap off and they go flying. So that's them. That's all of that clear. And then the team just go in and just finish up the ghouls. There's no danger of anything, especially with Costello and Karak healing. So they wipe out all the ghouls, and then eventually they free this Dalish elf. Heck, I'm trying to even remember his name. I can't even remember his name. It's one of those ones that's pronounced strange. We'll have to do that in another video at another time. So, it's pronounced differently to its spelling. It's a foreign word. So, yeah. Short word, though. Anyway, they free him, and they say, well, you came here to try and buy this place, so did we. Well, we'll let you travel with us for now. Prove yourself. But, slightest bit of trouble out of you, and you're for it. I mean, you haven't managed to get the taint, so something's going on with you. That's a bit suspicious to us. How the hell didn't you get the taint when they were there trying to infect you this whole time? There it is. But on the other hand, they also think, well, he's being reasonable. He claims to be a mage. Alright, show how useful you can be. Get across that gap for us. Now, the reason they want to send him across first, to prove himself, is also to check for more traps. And I was thinking to myself, wow, they're doing Pete's character as NPC behaviour, even when Pete is actually present. Oh well. There was like the time with Delilah, remember? And she kicked the door, and Karak mind blasted her foot, so it was empowered through the door, and knocked the door down, and Delilah went through the door. You remember that? Yes, you see, that's the kind of silly thing. Anyway, he goes to show off and prove to the new group just how great he is. And he runs and runs and runs across the walkway, runs across it and jumps and falls short and smacks his head straight on the other side of the gap there that's been blown open by the fragmentation explosive, and slides down the moat somewhat underneath the support structures of the walkway that go down the moat, and he ends up sort of upside down, legs in the air, head against the structure like that, and they say, oh, you daft bugger, So they approach to the next point, and Thanador says, right, fine, I'll make the jump. And he makes the jump just fine, lands, and so on. Anyway, he pulls himself up. Oh, but before Thanador could make the jump, he managed to make things, our new keeper, apprentice keeper, trainee, would-be mage, makes things worse by deciding to check the bridge by giving it an arcane lance. And because it was already very, very broken, it broke another section of it off, which made the hole bigger and, of course, made the target number worse. And they all just groaned at that. And then he just changed into a giant spider and clambered round up the moat and up onto the top that way. And while all this is going on, by the way, there were Genlock archers on the roof of the tower itself, and they were pelting arrows down. It was just a simple matter of counter-spelling back up at them. And Pete's new character also has Mind Blast, so being able to combine those two Mind Blasts as well, very useful. And Costello's extremely powerful arcane lancing. So yes, that's 3 mages currently. Interesting. Well, one of them's sort of a warlock priest, isn't it? Costello. The way he's been built, because he uses some of his health for limited amounts of spells. Limited. He doesn't like have spells that he knows. He just has like dailies, doesn't he? Right, so anyway, they killed them off up there, and then someone jumps across with a rope on them, and they tie it off at both ends and then make their way across on the rope. So that makes it a heck of a lot easier. And then they go for the tower. And they head in, and out comes the whiteboard again, and I'm starting to draw up the tower. Jez noticed that interestingly, I'd drawn the stairs, the spiral stairs going up in the correct direction, as in come through the door and they start going up anti-clockwise around. And he even pointed out the reason that they would do that is so that you could correctly swing a sword properly with your right hand, as the majority of people are. Yeah, how about that? As soon as they went through the door itself, there was just a little bit of a sort of under the stairs area, storage area, and then the stairs proper start to go up. They were all joking, oh, that's where they, of course, that's where they keep the vacuum and the shoes they've taken off because they want to keep the carpets clean and things. And they start making their way up the stairs, and Karak can still sense more darkspawn, this time Hurlocks. And they start hurling themselves down the stairs at them. And the group start killing them. They go up the stairs, single file, and start trying to lance over each other's shoulder in this kind of behaviour, and just about manage to hit some of the brickwork and disrupt some of it, and pull off a Mind Blast and knock one from below that knocks this one forward, and they all run back down again as a couple of Hurlocks are falling down, and it clatters into it was Karak or Pete's character, and they jump and almost get knocked flying by the falling Hurlock body. He's not quite dead yet, but he's falling like one, and then they all put the blades in and do him in and chuck him out through the doorway again. They want to chuck him under the stairs. That's where they keep the Hoover. There was about another 8 Hurlocks left or whatever, and they fight their way back up the stairs again. The Hurlocks are waiting just at the corner once more, and they clash. So it's pretty much the first Hurlock versus Thanador, and then he almost completely kills that one, picks him up on his weapon, throws him over his head to the group at the back, and they will start duffing him in and doing him over, and then throwing him back down the stairs, passing him through their group. And the Hurlocks are getting pushed back this way because Thanador at the front is he's just a steam train. He's a monster. And he's just complete. I mean, even with his bare hands, this big, massive Avar barbarian is just grabbing throats and just twisting necks, even on these huge badass Herlocks. Because I think it's that Tanadal's become so strong now in his journeys. He's so hardened and been through much. He's been through more than even those Herlocks have. You know, he's crazy. Anyway, with 3 of the Herlocks eventually left, the order is made for them to pull away back upstairs, to retreat, to make a tactical withdrawal. And the group are all ready to storm up the rest of the way and to meet the Alpha there with his pet Blight, Wolf, and the 3 Herlock guards waiting for them. So, you know, the way that they've just blown through this, the whole thing should be quite easy for them now. But we'll see if the boss can present any problems to them. That's where the session left off. People had to go for buses and all this kind of thing, when needs must. And, you know, trying to record trying to actually conduct the sessions can be difficult because the group, it's a democracy and they have to agree on what they feel like doing, and we're doing lots of other things as well, lots of other board games, and they're all wanting to, you know, keep it mixed up so that they don't just do one thing and get bored. So, you know, as I say, you know, I'll bring the vidcasts out as and when they're relevant, and yeah, they're just stuck there, frozen to the spot on the stairs as I've hit the pause button. And if they manage to get through this, they can decide whether they want to try and make a claim of Basilisk Keep itself. However, what they do need to note is when it was built during the Orlesian occupation, so it could make the right of the deed a little bit iffy, maybe. Yeah. So we'll see how that turns out. And then as soon as they're finished here, they'll be called back to Denerim, I believe, to see Miss Baranti. And there'll be a very special mission awaiting them, very close to home. And this should all hopefully lead up to the point that they then depart abroad to continue the fighting fantasy conversion of Dungeoneer, Zorton Throck. But until next time, I'll see you at the table.